Hi there guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plunk production, and in this video we're going to be talking about the one that got away and that life is sometimes cyclical, and if you just be patient, if you just wait, sometimes an opportunity to come your way to rectify the one that got away. If you're liking the content that I'm currently producing at the moment, guys, please hit the subscribe button, the like or the dislike button, depending on your feelings, and of course, you can put a comment down below if you'd like to have a discussion with myself or anybody else that wishes to put a comment down below. So the subject I want to talk about today is a camera, a DSLR camera that got away from me many years ago. So there's a Canon apparently. Canon is a camera manufacturer. So there's a camera manufacturer known as Nikon. I'm sure many people know who Nikon are. If you don't, just simply look up Nikon versus Canon. And you'll see a war between two brands that got even more ferocious than Microsoft versus Apple or Windows versus Mac. Got even more ferocious than the console wars of Sega and Nintendo. It was quite heated for a while, but it seems to have dissipated somewhat because there are so many other camera manufacturers on the market now because of the mirrorless market, and it's just expanded the market out so much that Canon and Nikon are still producing really good cameras. And if you want a high-end camera, they're the ones you typically would still go for because the ecosystem and the support that you get from that, from them being, trusted, established brands for many years. There's Panasonic, there's Sony, I'm trying to think of all the different camera manufacturers at the moment. There's Fujifilm, or Fuji as they now call themselves. There's so many different other companies that are now far more in the limelight, in the spotlight, so to speak, than just Canon or Nikon. But back in the day, Canon versus Nikon was a thing, and each company tried to one up each other with each successive release, a la AMD in Intel, a la Mac and Windows, or Apple and Microsoft. It got really ferocious at one point, and I do believe there was a lawsuit at one point, many lawsuits, and quite terse words between high-up executives between the two companies at once. Anyway, we're not going down the road of that particular war between two companies. So, in 2000, I think it was between 2008 and 2010, depending on the region, Nikon released a camera called the D7000. The D7000 was a mid-range camera. It wasn't a entry-level camera, and it wasn't a pro camera. It sat in the middle, but had features from both ends of the spectrum, so to speak. So it encouraged, newer photographers that maybe wanted to jump onto a more sophisticated camera, but it also got the attention of professionals that maybe wanted a secondary camera that they can have in a Nikon D7000. It was a magnesium alloyed, weather sealed body with, rather than having that red light, those cameras that have the red light on the front to autofocus, has a straight up torch on the front to help you autofocus in low light situations. It has all the buttons on the back, has two SD card slots, which is actually a pro feature for many of you that know about the pro lines of cameras, such as, is it Nikon's D1X or D3X, that line of cameras. Those line of cameras, all of them have redundancy features built in. So there's multiple card slots in there. So if you're shooting a wedding, if you're shooting sports, if you're shooting wildlife, and you're doing it and you're, being contracted or paid to do so, essentially, then hired to do so, commissioned, that's what I'm looking for, commissioned to do so, then you've got a backup of the footage in case it's lost, the pictures and what have you. So if someone's paying you, especially if it's wedding photography, weddings are much very much considered a one and done kind of thing, then you've got that extra footage, that extra backup. I keep saying footage as if it's bloody video, but you get what I'm trying to say. You've got that extra backup just in case you lose the first SD card or whatever media you're using. You got the secondary one, and then away you go. They're actually little packs. You can buy. They're fairly expensive, but they're little packs you can buy, in which you can just stick an SD card into. It will download all of the pictures from that SD card really quickly on the device itself, and it has a hard disk or something inside. You take the SD card out, you stick it back inside the camera, and then that camera, that it also formats that SD card ready to go for that camera, and you don't have to think about it. They're actually nifty little devices, but they are quite expensive. Last time I saw one, they're like over £100. They may have come down since then. Maybe I'll consider buying one. Anyway, so long story short, the D7000, even now in 2023, I've been watching some videos on the D7000, and you'll find out why very shortly. People nowadays aren't wanting to get rid of their D7000, a 12-year-old camera, and people are still wanting to grip hold of it. There are people that have shot videos in the last month or two saying that if you're new to photography, buying a D7000 would not be a bad idea. Well, the reason why I just explained everything I explained is because when the D7000 launched, the body alone was $2,000, or whatever your original equivalent was. So you're talking the best part of $1,500, between $1,500 and £2,000 over here. And you had to buy a lens on top. It's not like one of those budget entry level cameras where you get the kit lens included. No, you had to buy the lens aftermarket. So yeah, quite a costly proposition. Many years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I got the opportunity. I was browsing eBay, I think it was, and I was going to get some overtime coming up. I think there might have been some extra money coming from somewhere, but I was going to be pretty flush the upcoming month. So I was messaging back and forth with somebody on eBay. Little did I know, it's actually a known British photographer, a female photographer. I don't know their name, by the way. It's been 10 years since I've spoken to them. I could probably find their messages through eBay somewhere, but I was speaking to this person. They just moved on to a different camera, and they had the D7000. The only caveat is the D7000 might need a, I'm not sure exactly what the process is, but when you go up to the high-end cameras, there's a certain amount of actuations that they are rated for, basically. And once you get to that many actuations, you can replace the system and then carry on. They can be refurbished, and then away you go. So that's the caveat, basically, is that she wasn't sure whether it would need, replacements because the actuations are so high. She was selling it for very cheap, plus she didn't really need the money. She was just getting rid of it. So I said to her, would you be willing to hold on to it for me? And after begrudging a little bit of resistance, she was like, yeah, sure, I'll hold on to it for you. Cool. So payday came. I then transferred the money through PayPal. I didn't pay for the item through eBay. This was very new to my eBay adventure, so to speak. So I was still new to eBay when it came to all of this, and I transferred the money through PayPal to her rather than paying for the item on eBay, and did it the wrong way. I was literally on the bus on my way back home, having just spent £180 on a lens for the camera because she wasn't selling it with a lens, for her to message me on eBay to say, you idiot, and that's the exact words she used, you idiot, you did it wrong, you've just cost me some money. And after a bit of back and forth, she just outright cancelled the item, sent me back my money on PayPal, and that was that, basically. The funny thing with it was, I just bought the Tamron. I think it was the 15 to 300. Was it the 50 to 300? It was a very wide focal length. It was got a really short focal length to a very long focal length lens, and it was kind of seen as the budget lens. But for a entry level budding photographer enthusiast, it would be absolutely perfect and would fit the Nikon rather well. Well, they had a little policy that was basically once you walk out with it, no refund, essentially. I walked back there, explained the whole situation, and luckily I spoke to the same person that served me to begin with, and I went, I'm really sorry, but, this has just happened. To which he then asks, how much is she selling you a D7000 for? Told him the price. I can't remember the price of the D7000, I'll be completely honest with you. To which he then goes, I said, why? He said, because we actually got a D7000 in stock, but I can't sell it to you for that kind of price. That's way, way too low of a price for us to sell it for. I think it's around 200-300. Thinking back on it, it wasn't at the time for that camera. It was a really low price. To which he was like, and he was asking questions such like, do you have a credit card? Could you go into an overdraft? Could you get a loan? Standard sales tactics. They don't do that much nowadays, but back then, if you couldn't afford something there and then, they were sort of trained to ask, could you maybe take a credit card out and buy it that way, sort of encouraging you to get money elsewhere that wasn't your money. Luckily nowadays, that's a thing that's kind of gone by the wayside, luckily. And I went, nah, sorry, I think at the time I could have gotten a credit card, to be completely honest with you. But, I said, no, can't really do that. Unfortunately, to which he then said, look, I understand we don't normally take stuff back, but on this occasion I'll take the lens back for you. And he said if you end up finding one, or she changes her mind and you do get that particular D7000, then come back and you can buy either this one from us. We have these in stock throughout the UK and various other branches and what have you. So I'm sure we'll be able to find one for you. You can have it delivered to your home address, or you can have it delivered to the store and come and pick it up. So I was in talks with her on the way home, got back home. She then blocked me on eBay and on PayPal. Actually, I didn't know you could block people on PayPal. Makes sense that you can. And that was that. Basically, I went on with my life, then proceeded to buy a Canon Rebel camera at the time that didn't work properly. Got that sent back through eBay. Anyway, so yeah, every so often, because I do watch, although you can see that if you can see the screen at the moment, but every so often when watching YouTube, something will pop up again about the D7000, and I think the one that got away. So was browsing through Facebook Marketplace the other day, and there is if you couldn't guess, there was a D7000 on there with 3 lenses, and basically the seller's holding on for me. I'm not going to tell you the price for various reasons. I'll tell you the price once I've got the item in hand, so to speak. But yes, long story short, after 10 years or so, looks like I managed to get a D7000 camera just by being a little bit patient, watching out for one, and yeah, finally managed to get one. The person I'm speaking to on Facebook Marketplace has been fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to picking this up. Payday. Got a bit of extra money coming next month due to a payout. So I'm going to use some of that money with some of my wages to buy this D7000 with 3 lenses. So not only is it going to come with 3 lenses, a remote, a tripod, and a Sony camera bag with it, so it's going to have a complete set ready to go. It's got a 50mm, I've forgotten the 3 lenses. I literally looked it up before shooting this video, but it's got the 3 lenses that you'd require basically for a camera like that. It can shoot 1080p HD video, but I'd probably be using it just for the photography. So yeah, the one that got away looks like I finally managed to get myself a Nikon D7000 after many years of waiting. And I'm really happy that I managed to get one. We'll go from there. Hopefully you enjoyed this little story time, guys. I know some people do enjoy story times and things like that, so I thought I'd give you one today. But until next time, please take care, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Ta-ra.